Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, Sean Combs spent his first night in custody, and we learn his defense from his attorneys. You know, it's not a crime, it's a lifestyle. A horrific killing in Vermont we can talk about. An IRS agent gets indicted for murder. And a Mississippi teen is an example of why, well, some people just are not wired correctly. We have the This Day in Legal History for you and our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and make sure that you hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, I want to thank everybody who joined us last night for our live show, and of course, our Patreon family members who enjoyed spending time with them as well since we missed last week. Also, wanted to let you know about a couple of the stats that we talked about briefly last night. I just want to say thank you. We were looking up some of these numbers right before the show last night, and Crime Talk has had over 69 million views since we started doing this. We are at nearly 269,000 subscribers. We have over 500,000 subscribers on Facebook, and our podcast, just the podcast, where you can download it to your favorite podcasting app. That's right, over 2 million downloads, which is pretty incredible because if you get about more than 100 downloads, you're in the top 1% of podcasts because most people that have a podcast have their spouse and their kids and maybe their, family members that download it. So the fact that you all take the time to listen to what we here at Crime Talk have to say, well, we are very, very appreciative of that indeed. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can pay a few bills, though, before we get started. First, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service, and when you do, you can do as many background searches as your little heart desires on anyone here in the United States. And guess what? You're going to get that report generated while you wait. It's going to have background information about somebody's criminal history, their marital status. Are they divorced? Do they have judgments against them? Are they on one of those lists, maybe for some of that criminal history they don't want to necessarily tell you about? Well, that's why you have to check out all the new people that are coming into your life, ladies and gentlemen. And this is not just a Google search. No, this is a background search. And remember, if you're meeting somebody online and you don't use a background subscription service to check them out, you are committing dating malpractice. And how many stories have we done where somebody has committed dating malpractice and wound up dead? Go to crimetalksearch.com, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be happy that you did. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for September 18th of 2024. And first on the docket, that's right, old Sean Diddy Combs spent his first night locked up in the Brooklyn Federal Detention Center that has long been plagued by tales of barbaric and reprehensible conditions for inmates. And who has complained about those conditions? Well, that other convicted sexual abuser, R. Kelly, and don't forget that other sexual abuser, Ghislaine Maxwell. They all resided there. Now, let's not forget about that guy named Jeff, who also resided there, but he was suicided. So we'll just have to wait and see if Mr. Combs has a little better security than that guy named Jeff. Now, as we discussed last night on our live show, Mr. Combs was sent behind the magic doors of the courthouse because guess what? He was denied bond, which he should have been under the Bail Reform Act, given the nature of the charges against him. So like I said, he got sent off to the Metropolitan Detention Center, Sunset Park, late Tuesday afternoon, after the judge ordered him held without bail on the sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Now, of course, Sean Combs' attorneys say that they're going to appeal the magistrate's ruling for detention, and that will go to the district court judge handling the case. But the standard is one of abuse of discretion. Abuse of discretion standard is like it's so obvious what the outcome should be, and you just simply ignored all of the facts in the case. The judge didn't do that. That's why old Sean Combs was detained. That's why I said I thought he would be detained. Not necessarily just for the nature of the racketeering charges and the human trafficking charges, but the fact that there's allegations that he has been tampering with witnesses during the time that he has known that he's been under investigation until the time of his indictment. I get it. They're going to go and try to appeal. I don't think that he will prevail, but we will wait and see. The good thing is these appeals are rather quick. Well, we were able to hear from Diddy's attorneys as they made the circuit of TV stations last night. And what we've learned is that Diddy's baby oil soak freak-offs, that's right, his nights of orgies and debauchery, were simply a lifestyle choice and not a crime. And they, Mr. Diddy's attorneys, said that do not make him into the new Jeffrey Epstein. Ms. Garagos, one of the attorneys, made this claim while appearing on Andrew Cuomo's show last night on News Nation, trying to defend old Sean Combs hours after he was denied bail for the racketeering charges. Now, according to the attorneys, he is innocent, and I agree with them. He is given the presumption of innocence. But the attorneys stated that old Sean Combs was denied bail in order to remain in pretrial detention, and that was wrong, that this is simply a lifestyle, and being present at one of these activities doesn't mean that a crime was in fact committed. Those activities and the lifestyle is not criminal, the attorney repeatedly noted. And what was notable today was that the government, never once said that these women didn't consent to what happened. Not once. Well, I think there are portions in the indictment where they basically said that they were threatened and they couldn't say, no, I'm not going to do that. But that will be ultimately an issue for trial. So what are you going to do, ladies and gentlemen? What are you going to do? So always not a good way to start off when you say, yes, it happened, but this wasn't human trafficking. No, there were not sexual crimes taking place. There were not drugs there. It's just a lifestyle choice. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, the attorney noted that Mr. Combs was not charged with any crimes related to minors yet. I would anticipate a superseding indictment, but we'll just have to wait and see. And the difference between Mr. Combs' case and R. Kelly example and even Epstein is there are no charges related to minors. Now, Mr. Combs did head to jail Tuesday to await trial in his sex trafficking case that accuses him of presiding over a little empire of sexual crimes protected by blackmail and acts of violence. He is accused of inducing female victims and male sex workers into drugged up, sometimes day-long sexual performances, dubbed apparently by Mr. Sean Combs and his friends as freak-offs. I say he's a freak. Anyway, 1,000 bottles of baby oil were discovered during the searches of his property. And prosecutors allege that women who participated in these freaks-offs that they were so worn out by marathon sex sessions, they needed to be treated with IV drips after the parties or freak-offs were over. Now, the indictment also refers to an attack on his former girlfriend, the R&B singer Cassie, that was captured on video. Now, Mr. Combs is a fighter, his attorney says, and he's going to fight these charges to the end. He's innocent. And of course, he plans to appeal the decision, keeping him in custody. Well, Mr. Combs, I would say welcome to the world of criminal defense. No matter how innocent you think you are, no matter how much money you think you are, the law is not written in the favor of the defendant. Yes, you have your constitutional rights, but everything else, well, it's pretty much going to jam you up throughout the process. Even for you, Mr. Combs, who has for the last 30 years pretty much done and got away with whatever you wanted to do. Now, the attorneys did acknowledge that Mr. Combs was not a perfect person. I get it. We're all flawed human beings, right? But he said that there were drugs that were being used and it was in a toxic relationship. But don't worry. He's been getting treatment and he has been in therapy. The attorneys have maintained that this case stemmed from the one long-term consensual relationship that faltered amid allegations of infidelity. Now, he didn't name the woman, but the details match those of Mr. Combs' decade-long involvement with Cassie, whose legal name is Cassandra Ventura. Now, the freak-offs were an expansion of that relationship and were simply not coercive. Yeah, because that's normal to have your loving spouse, the one you love, to basically engage in a bunch of sexual relations with other people. I don't know. I get it. Some people do it. That's their thing. Not my thing. But hey, if that's their thing, play it out in court and see how it works for you. So when asked, is this sex trafficking? Not if everybody wants to be there, the attorney said, saying that, this was just simply an intrusion of Mr. Combs and others' private life. Stay out of the bedroom, I guess, is what they're saying. Unless, of course, the people are being human trafficked. Then that's a problem. Like I said, the indictment describes Mr. Combs as the head of a criminal enterprise that engaged or attempted to engage in sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of prostitution, drug offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Those are basically the encompassing charges for the racketeering charge. There's a charge of racketeering. Then the government has to prove the predicate acts under those. They're kind of like separate allegations. But if they prove two or more of those, they're a pattern of racketeering activity, and the sentencing guidelines go up. So it is also alleged that Mr. Combs would use force, threats, and coercion to get the women to engage with male sex workers in these freak-offs, elaborate and produce sex performances that Mr. Combs arranged, recorded, and created apparently lots and lots of videos. I guess this is going to be like when somebody's phone shows up in a wiretap call, they get a little notice. Do you think they're going to get a notice? So all these people that were at these parties are going to get a notice saying, hey, we've got some video of you, just want to let you know. I don't know. Do you think Hollywood? Do you think the people in the Hamptons are getting a little nervous right about now? There are a lot of pictures with Mr. Sean Combs with lots of people in government powerful positions. It's also alleged that Mr. Combs ensured the participation by procuring and providing drugs, controlling people's careers, leveraging his financial support, and using intimidation and violence, according to the indictment. It is also alleged that his employees facilitated freak-offs by taking care of tasks like travel and hotel arrangements and stocking them up on the necessary supply of drugs and essential baby oil. Apparently, these events could go on for days. So I cannot wait to see a proposed witness list in this particular case. I also anticipate to see a superseding indictment at some point, either naming other individuals who are apparently already cooperating with the prosecution, and they're going to show up. We'll see if Mr. Combs wants his speedy trial, which would be right about the 70 to 90 day mark, or if his attorneys are going to say, whoa, we need to pump the brakes. We need to watch all these videos to see who's in there and analyze that to see if it is in fact, consensual or not. Additionally, there's going to be issues as it relates to the search warrants. What information was in there? Will it be Frank's issues? But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I predict there will be a plea in this particular case to one count. Mr. Combs will go and do some time, but he will avoid a potential lengthy sentence, assuming the security cameras are working. Now, of course, to get that smoking good deal, my guess is he's going to have to list all the people that showed up at their parties and who knew what the heck was going on. Next, a horrific murder in Vermont. So Brian Grossman, he is apparently a member of the Paulette Select Board, some sort of city council or school board, was among 3 individuals found dead at a residence in Vermont on Sunday morning. Now, Grossman was found alongside his wife, Erica, and a third victim whose identity and age have not been confirmed. Now, official identification of the victims is still pending from the Vermont State Police, which indicated that the investigations are dealing with a person of interest who is believed to be a relative of the victims. Now, apparently no charges or arrests had been made by noon on Monday, according to the Vermont State Police spokesperson, and there was no indication of a threat to the public. Now, the Vermont State Police is continuing to investigate the crime scene along Route 133 in Paulette, where 3 bodies were discovered following a 911 call of a suspicious person around 3:45 a.m. on Sunday, September 15th. Now, the person of interest reportedly called the police on himself and was allegedly waiting for police in blood-covered clothing at the nearby Wells Village School. He then reportedly accompanied police to the home, according to neighbors that were looking out upon the scene. When the police did arrive there, officers discovered a bloody scene as well as 3 bodies, which are currently undergoing autopsies, according to the police. Next, an IRS agent arrested for murder. I'm more interested in how can the IRS agent afford an au pair, a nanny? So the husband of a woman killed more than a year and a half ago has officially been charged with murder. This is according to the Fairfax, Virginia County Police Department. Brendan Banfield is facing 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of using a firearm during the commission of a felony. Only 2 people were killed that day, but it's basically charging decisions that they've made. Give them an option. Anyway, Banfield's arrest comes more than a year after his wife Christine Banfield and a man by the name of Joseph Ryan were killed at their residence. Now, on February 24th, 2023, police found the bodies of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield in the Banfield family home. A woman who was working for the family as an au pair, nanny, from Brazil was indicted in April after the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office alleged that she was responsible for Ryan's death. On April 15th, Juliana Perez Magalhaes was indicted in Ryan's death, but not Christine Banfield's death. Now, Perez Magalhaes was charged with second-degree murder and use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. Now, up until now, Brendan Banfield had not been charged in the murder case. Upon his arrest, police say that Brendan Banfield was taken to the same detention center as Magalhaes has been since her 2023 arrest. Now, prosecutors allege that Perez Magalhaes and Brendan Banfield were having an affair months prior to the deadly shooting. Records in the case show photos of the same room after the killing with new frame photos of the two. Now, Brendan Banfield is accused of deliberately and willfully planning to kill his wife and Ryan. Now, Banfield was expected to be arraigned earlier in the week, but that arraignment has been continued until today. Well, the Commonwealth's attorney shared records from Silver Eagle Group shooting range in Ashburn, Virginia, where they show 2 months before the shooting, Perez Magalhaes and Brendan Banfield visited the gun range. A few weeks later, Brendan Banfield also purchased a gun which would eventually be used to shoot Mr. Ryan. Well, in April, the attorney representing Perez Magalhaes painted a picture in court of the chain of events that led to the 2 people's deaths. There were 2 911 calls that morning within about 15 minutes of each other, starting at 7:47 a.m. That led investigators to the Banfield's home on Stablebrook Way there in Herndon, Virginia. The morning of the shooting, Christine Banfield had purchased tickets for Perez Magalhaes to take her 4-year-old daughter to the zoo. Perez Magalhaes ended up returning home because she left their lunches behind and wanted to pick them up. When Perez Magalhaes got to the home, there was a car she didn't recognize in the driveway. Perez Magalhaes' defense attorney said that she called Christine Banfield from outside, and when she didn't answer, she called Brendan Banfield, who was at a nearby McDonald's. Perez Magalhaes, the nanny, waited outside for Brendan Banfield, according to her attorney, and when they entered the home, he went upstairs where Perez Magalhaes said Brendan Banfield caught his wife in the room naked with Mr. Ryan. Oh, there was a little bit of a commotion upstairs apparently, and Perez Magalhaes, according to her attorney, said she heard calls to drop the knife, and she eventually heard the sound of a flesh being struck. Now, according to Perez Magalhaes' chain of events, Brendan Banfield shot Ryan. She confessed to a detective that Brendan Banfield then instructed her to get a second gun in the safe in the bathroom closet. Now, prior to the au pair's indictment, the attorneys had said that Perez Magalhaes and Brendan Banfield acted out of self-defense. Mr. Banfield told her to obtain a firearm from the bathroom closet, and Mr. Banfield provided her with the code to get into the safe. Perez Magalhaes confessed to shooting Ryan, who was also on the ground in the chest, piercing through his heart. But why did Perez Magalhaes do as Brendan Banfield allegedly asked? Well, Perez Magalhaes initially told detectives that she was not in a romantic relationship with Brendan Banfield, an assertion not shared by her attorney in court in April, who described Perez Magalhaes as Brendan Banfield's girlfriend/live-in lover. Now, the morning of the shooting, Brendan Banfield told authorities that he'd shot a man in the house who had stabbed his wife. Brendan Banfield was an IRS special agent, and prosecutors previously suggested that he was carrying his issued gun at the time of the shooting. Oh, the tangled webs we weave when we try to deceive. So you got Banfield hooking up with the au pair while the wife is getting the au pair out of the house so that her boyfriend can come over. It kind of seems like these people should be hanging out at a Diddy party. I don't know. But apparently didn't end up well at all. And how many times have we said it? If you're involved in a conspiracy, you better take care of the other person in custody, right? Mr. Banfield didn't take care of the au pair, and she started to feel lonely. She started to feel not loved. She started to feel as though, well, I don't know, the threat of imminent incarceration was coming, and it breaks the bonds of loyalty. And since he did nothing for her, didn't get her an attorney, never calls, never writes, she gave him up, and now he's probably going to prison for the rest of his life. I want to know, government employees have au pairs? Are you kidding me? Crazy. Next on the docket, a Mississippi teen on trial for murder is a perfect example of sometimes people just are not wired correctly. And what I mean by that is they just don't care. They have no emotions. They just don't care. Anyway, some video played at the trial of a 15-year-old by the name of Carly Gregg's trial on Tuesday appeared to show that the teen hiding something behind her back and then walking towards her bedroom just moments before the sounds of 3 gunshots and her mother screaming could be heard on the video. Now, Miss Gregg, like I said, she's 15. She's on trial for murder and attempted murder as an adult after turning down a 40-year plea deal. The defense is pursuing an insanity defense, arguing that this is not a whodunit case, but why did it happen type of case. Just because you're a sociopath doesn't mean that you're necessarily insane. Anyway, the video from the afternoon of March 19th showed that Gregg, then 14, was at the Brandon residence when 40-year-old Ashley Smiley, her mother, a math teacher in the local community, was fatally shot in the face, and that the defendant immediately after the shooting went to the kitchen and started to use a phone. About the 45-second mark on the footage, Gregg, in a Nirvana t-shirt, could be seen peeking into the kitchen as if to check if someone was there, and appeared to be holding an object behind her back out of view of the cameras. Moments later, the first gunshot is fired, and Smiley lets out 2 screams. 2 more shots were then fired. Well, Gregg then returned to the kitchen and started fiddling with a phone, possibly texting. Prosecutors have alleged that she used her mother's phone to lure Heath Smiley to the house by texting, "When will you be home, honey?" and that she later shot him in the shoulder before he was able to wrestle the gun away from her. Now, prosecutors have also alleged that Miss Gregg texted a friend known as BW to come over to the house, claiming that there was an emergency. Once the friend arrived, Miss Gregg allegedly asked the friend if she had ever seen a dead body before leading the witness to the victim's body and saying that her stepfather was next. Anyway, Gregg's stepdad took the witness stand on Tuesday and spoke about finding his wife dead and how he survived the shooting. He described that she was laying on her back with her arms over her head, with a towel covering her face. He testified, "I knew that she had been shot. There was blood around. I'm not exactly sure where, on the right side of her face. When he opened the door to the kitchen, the gun went off in my face before the door was 3 or 4 inches wide open," he testified. And like I said, it went off a couple of times, but my hand was on the gun after the first shot, and he twisted it away from Miss Gregg. Now, Smiley also said that Miss Gregg, whom he remembered as a sweet little girl, looked as if she had seen a demon or something that day. Jury will decide. Not guilty by reason of insanity or just cold-blooded murder after deliberation of her own mom by shooting her in the face and then plotting to kill the stepdad. I don't know. I think some people just are not wired right. Next on our This Day in Legal History, not a good legislation, but hey, this is what took place, ladies and gentlemen. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was signed into law by U.S. President Millard Fillmore. Now, Millard Fillmore did in fact sign the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 on September 18th of that year, obliging law enforcement to arrest escaped slaves in all U.S. states, including those where slavery was not legal. Now, free black men and women were endangered by the act's passage as they were at risk of obviously being falsely identified as escaped slaves. The act also heightened tensions between abolitionists in the North and slaveholders in the South, contributing what would become the Civil War just a mere 11 years later. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. A Miami Beach Corvette owner was in a little bit of an unusual situation when he discovered that a car thief or attempted car thief had trapped himself in the car and then asked the car owner to help get him out. Well, the car owner said, "Hey, this is not your car." The car owner is a guy by the name of Julio Solano, and he owned the car when he found, common spelling, ladies and gentlemen, Ravesh Rabindranath, Rabindranath. I know, someone's going to tell me I mispronounced it, but I'll give you the spelling. Anyway, the intruder asked, "Can I get out?" When he was asking Mr. Solano while being recorded on the victim's cell phone. "No, you can't get out. We're calling the police." And needless to say, the owner of the Corvette, Mr. Solano, was a little surprised by the intruder's inability to get out of the car. Anyway, this car was at a parking garage. When the police arrived, they arrested Mr. Rabindranath, who now faces charges of burglary. Mr. Solano believes while Mr. Rabindranath managed to break into the car, he was unable to start it due to the security system, and he also didn't know that there was a manual door release under the seat. Needless to say, Mr. Rabindranath, the dumb criminal of the day, was read his Miranda rights and agreed to speak with police officers, and he was promptly arrested. He is now being held on one count of burglary of an unoccupied conveyance, and as of Tuesday, he was still in the jail, unable to make a $2,500 bond. Mr. Rabindranath, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, you are our dumb criminal of the day. Congratulations. Keep your hands off of other people's stuff. And if you are going to steal the car, it's best to depart in it, not to get trapped in the car and have to ask the owner when he comes around to let you out. All right, that's all we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And remember, yes, that pesky Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they matter.